Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Onwards and Upwards, everything a global healthcare worker needs to know about living and working in the United States. I am your host, Danielle Friedman, here from AMN International, where we have both staffing and direct hire. We're actually the only company in the US to offer you both staffing with our company OGP and direct hire with Kinetics USA. So if you are interested in either of those options, we have both of them for you, and our recruiters are on hand, ready and waiting to take your applications. So today, there you go. There's the link at amnhealthcare.com/international. So this morning, I am talking to you live from Southern California, the home of Hollywood, of Disneyland, and where I started my US American dream about 20 years ago. So today we are going to be talking about immigration. Very exciting. We're going to be doing our monthly immigration Q&A with our expert attorneys. And I would love to hear where you are all watching from. Would love to see your questions in the chat. Love to see where our viewers are watching from. Let's see if we have anybody saying where they're watching from today. Please put in the chat. We love to see where you're watching from. We love to help answer your questions. So please let us know. We also have a few special surprises for the show. We're going to be trying out some new things. So make sure you pay attention because we have some exciting stuff ahead for you. So without further ado, let's get started with our monthly Q&A. Let's bring out our expert attorneys. Good morning, Mike, and good morning, Chris. How are you both doing today?
Good. Danielle, how are you?
Good. It's I'm happy. I know that there's positive news coming. So spoiler alert for everybody. We have a little bit of positive news coming. Before we get started, let's start with some introductions. Mike, do you want to go first?
Sure. My name is Mike Hammond. I'm an immigration attorney based in Cincinnati, Ohio. I've been practicing immigration law for 30 plus years. Primarily work in two spaces, IT staffing and healthcare.
Wonderful. Well, we are very lucky to have Mike's expertise on the show when we do our monthly updates. So happy to have you here, Mike. Chris, let's have you go next.
Yeah, I'm Chris Masillo. I'm Mike Hammond's younger and better looking brother.
I like
so
that.
If you're joining us, you are probably used to seeing these two faces. They are very seasoned experts. They know what they're doing, and they are excited and ready to take your questions today. Right, Mike and Chris?
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
All right. So let's get started. Let's get started with what everybody is excited to hear, the visa bulletin update. So Chris, you want to go ahead and give us what the recent update was?
Yeah, so the April visa bulletin came out, about a week ago, and we saw positive movement for the Philippines and all other EB-3, which is to say all categories other than India and China. It's now at November 22nd of 2022, which is, what's that, about 16-month retrogression. That's the good news. That's the headline. We were all very excited to see that. That was about a 2-month progression. Maybe a little more than that. So that was all good news. One note, though, that I think is important for everybody to notice, because I'm sure we're going to get questions on where Mike and I think the visa bulletin is going in the future. There was a note at the end of the visa bulletin, which implied that for the rest of the U.S. fiscal year, which runs between, now and October 1st, so that is roughly 6 months, that we should not really expect any progressions anymore. So, could the visa bulletin, EB-3 Philippine, and all other progress, from November into December and maybe even into 2023? I guess I wouldn't be surprised by that, but I do not expect any significant progressions in Philippines or all other EB-3 for the rest of the fiscal year.
Okay, thank you, Chris. So if you are just joining us, Chris and Mike are here to give us our monthly immigration updates. Chris updated us that the visa bulletin has positively moved forward about 2 months, which is great news. And we have some, maybe I'll say, apprehension on what we're going to see for the next 6 months. So we'll see what happens. Okay, thank you, Chris and Mike. Appreciate that. So I let everybody know at the beginning of the show that we're going to have some new surprises for everybody in the show and new things that we're going to be trying out. So we are bringing out our legal hotline. So this is your chance to come on screen and ask your question to Chris and Mike. I am going to suggest that you keep it as general as possible. We are going to post the link to come online in the chat. Remember, please turn your cameras on if you can. And if you don't get in the first time, keep trying. We have a limit to how many people we can have backstage. And I know a lot of people are definitely going to have a lot of questions that they're going to want to come on and ask. So please take advantage of the legal hotline, a new project we are trying. So we're going to put the link in the chat and you can ask your questions to our lawyers live. So we're going to see Mike and Chris back in a moment for our legal hotline. Until then, we are going to bring out our lovely director here at AMN International, Deirdre. Good morning, Deirdre.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be watching from. Love these innovations that we're doing with the Onwards and Upwards show, and excited to present to you our first job watch on Onwards and Upwards. So every show we will be highlighting a number of different states across the United States of clients that are currently interviewing for various specialties. So today we're going to be concentrating on Minnesota and South Dakota, Massachusetts, and Mississippi. So let's start with Minnesota and South Dakota. So these clients, again, they are interviewing now for a variety of specialties. And these particular clients are looking for direct hire. So if that is what you are looking for, then go ahead and get your application in today. AMN Healthcare /International. Our recruiters are standing by, waiting to speak to you. And, you know, this is a great opportunity if you are looking for, you know, cost of living, if you're bringing a family with you, this is a great location for you. Again, they're looking for a direct hire, and these clients are building an international community. So if this is what you want to do and you get your application in today, then you will be among many international nurses who are in the same location. So excited to speak with you, get your application in today. And these clients are interviewing. So there are interview events ongoing throughout the month of March. So please make sure that you get your application in. Slots are extremely limited, so we want to make sure that you get your place in line. The other areas that we are highlighting today is the wonderful, wonderful state of Massachusetts and Mississippi. So Massachusetts, we actually have an exclusive interview event on the 20th. So that is next week. Again, recruiting for a number of different specialties. This particular client is looking for staffing. So if that's what you are interested in and you can see yourself living and working in the wonderful state of Massachusetts, then please make sure that you get your application into us today. Again, interview slots are extremely limited. This particular client is world renowned, and I know that you will have a fantastic experience. The last state that we're going to highlight today is the beautiful state of Mississippi. Again, if cost of living is important to you, then this is the location for you. Again, this client is looking for staffing applicants. So if that is what you are looking for, then again, get your application in today. It is a very exciting time. These clients are motivated to speak with you. They are currently interviewing. But if you are not seeing the location that you would like to go to on this job alert today, then that's perfectly fine. We've got opportunities across the United States. So if these 4 areas are not where you want to be, we still want you to get your application in today. Again, our recruiters are online waiting to speak to you. I'll finish this job alert by saying, get your place in line today. So this is a great show. I know that you've got a lot of questions for our amazing attorneys, and I look forward to updating you on our next job alert on our next show. So have a great rest of your day, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time.
All right. Thank you, Deirdre. That was so exciting to see our job alert. So as a reminder to everybody, we have positions all over the US. So let's bring up that map where we have positions all over the US. And you can see, oh, well, there we go. The positions are all over the US, are in the purple and the green. And the positions that we decided to highlight that are upcoming hiring are in green. So as Deirdre, oh, there we go. We got that map. Okay, so as you can see, between us, AMN Healthcare International, we're the only company that does direct hire and staffing, and we have positions in every state. So wherever you might be looking to go, whether it's direct hire or staffing, we can help you. So today, Deirdre focused on the states of Massachusetts, Minnesota, South Dakota, and Mississippi, which are going to be currently hiring. She showed you the highlights, things you should consider, cost of living, awards, weather, other location factors, all that kind of good stuff. So thank you, Deirdre, for sharing all of that. If you want to find out more about different states, we actually have resources on our website, and you can see videos, clips, stories from other nurses who are going to different states that you may be interested in. There we go. You can see from our website, and we're going to post the link in the chat so you can go online. You can see that section about the states, and we have coverage of almost every state. So you can read up, you can watch videos, you can learn more. All right, so let's get back to our monthly immigration Q&A. That was so much fun to do our job watch. We're going to do that every show so you know where exactly are we upcoming hiring. But today we're focused on immigration. So we have our experts, Mike and Chris, back. We're going to be taking your questions. As a reminder, we are also launching our legal hotline. So it's kind of like when you used to call into the radio, you could ask your question to the experts, get some advice. That's what our legal hotline is. You can post your questions in the chat. We'll continue to take questions in the chat. But if you want to come on live with your camera on, keep trying. We got lots of people I hear that are coming backstage, and you can ask your question. So let's see if we have someone backstage that wants to ask a question. We can bring them out. Hello.
Hey, hello. Sorry.
You. We're so
Hello.
happy to have you on. You're a very special first guest for our legal hotline. So welcome. Peter,
Yeah, thank you so much.
Where are you talking to
Thank
us
you
from?
so much. Thank you so much, Daniel. I'm Peter from Uganda. I don't know if you know that country.
I do.
So
I'm from South Africa. So we're from the same continent.
Oh, yeah. So my question is,
What's your question,
that,
Peter?
yeah, if you indicated that you're single on the DS260 form, and then within that time from when you filled that form to the appointment letter, you get married. So can you adjust that status and tell the consular that you just gotten married and you need your wife to move with you to the States? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Peter. That's a great question. I see Chris is shaking his head. I think we're going to turn to you for this one, Chris. Can you give
Great.
Peter some advice?
Hey, Peter, thanks so much for your question. So let me maybe summarize it for the other listeners in case they couldn't hear Peter's question. What he's saying is his priority date's current. His DS-260 has been unlocked, and he's completed that, and he's scheduling his appointment at the embassy, and it sounds like he's getting married. So the first thing, Peter, is you'll want to be married before you have that appointment at the embassy. If you do that, you'll want to contact your attorney and recruiter. They should be able to open up a channel for you and your spouse to also have her appointment at the same time. Mechanically, it may differ from embassy to embassy as to exactly how that's done. And candidly, I don't fill out the form for the Ugandan embassy, so I'm not sure exactly how mechanically you'll do that. But the important thing is that it can be done.
All right. Well, good news for you there, Peter, and congratulations on getting married. That is very exciting. Well, thank you for your question, Peter. Hopefully we answered, and thank you for calling into the legal hotline. Let's see if we have one more guest to take a question from for our legal hotline. This is a new and exciting segment that we're going to be doing for our immigration experts. All right. Hello, Angelica. Are you there?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. We'd love to see your beautiful face if you're able to be on camera.
Oh no, I'm at work. My apologies.
Okay, that's okay. Well, at least we can hear you. Thank
Sure.
you for calling into the legal hotline. What is
Thank
your
you.
question for our expert attorneys?
Yes, my question is, will it be, will EB-3 other worker be current anytime soon this year, or will it move up?
You're asking about the other worker unskilled category, I believe, because you used the phrase other worker.
Yes.
And in
Yes.
my opinion, no, I do not believe it will move forward at all. There's a limited number per year in the other worker category, and that number was significantly backlogged. So I do not believe it will be current this year. I do not think it'll be current at any point in the future. I think you're going to see extremely slow movement for the other unskilled worker category. Sorry.
Oh, okay, that's a problem.
Okay, well, there we go. At least you got the advice from the expert attorneys.
Yes,
And
thank
that's
you.
what we do here. We're here to give you advice. We're here to tell you exactly what we think. So thank you, Angelica, for calling in and asking a question that I'm sure a lot of viewers are very interested in. So we appreciate it. All right, guys. So thank you. That was fun to try out our legal hotline. We're going to try and do this every month when we do our monthly Q&A. So if you want to get expert advice for your question, you're going to be able to call in and ask your question to our attorneys. So let's turn to the chat. I see there's lots of chatter, lots of questions in there. I see Erna is watching from South Africa. Hi, Erna, from my home country. Sheila is watching from Kenya. Hello, Sheila. Sanrio from the Philippines. We got lots of viewers watching from all over the world. So hello to everybody. Okay, so let's take our first question. So I see Jonah says, can a nurse apply for an EB-3 visa if they're already in the United States? Chris, we're going to turn to you for this one, please.
Sure. Yes and no. Can they apply? Absolutely. Can they adjust status without heading back to their home country? The answer is maybe. It depends. It depends on what country they're applying from. So if they're an Indian national, it seems very unlikely, of course, because they'd be retrogressed some 12 years. But if you're here on like a tourist visa, you should expect to have to return to your home country. Having said that, there's exceptions to everything. As a broad rule of thumb, though, if you're not in the United States on an employment-based visa, you can apply while you're in the U.S., but the application is still going to be for overseas, and so you should probably expect to return to your home country. But again, you'll want to talk to your attorney and your recruiter about your specific situation.
All right. Well, there you go. A good answer for you, Jonah. So Okla has a question. Do you still recommend filing a petition via premium processing? I was filed regular over 7 months now, and my petition hasn't been approved. I have a priority date, but I'm feeling a little bit stressed. Mike, what do you think about premium versus regular processing? And also, can you just give our viewers an overview of what that even means?
Sure. So this has to do with the processing times for the I-140 petition, which is the first filing in the green card process for an RN. One of the key things to understand is that you get your priority date, your spot in the queue, the day you file, not the day your case is approved. So if you file today, your case is going to have a priority date, a spot in the queue of March 15th, regardless of when that case is filed. Premium processing assures that you're going to get your case approved within 15 business days. They just changed the rule. The fee is about $3,000, and you're going to get it obviously quickly. It doesn't change your priority date. It changes when the case gets approved. If you file regular, then right now they're running anywhere from 6 to 9 months. We're seeing some at the 6-month mark, some closer to 9, but it's all kind of somewhere in that neighborhood. My opinion is that unless you have a current priority date, there is zero advantage legally in premium processing your case. And it is simply a waste of your almost $3,000 to do so. If, however, you have a current priority date, maybe you're recapturing an old priority date, then there might be a reason to premium your case. But generally speaking, the answer would be, in my opinion, no reason to premium today.
Okay, thank you, Mike. So if you missed that, Mike was giving a little bit of an overview on what the difference between premium and regular processing is and why it doesn't necessarily make sense to do premium processing right now. So thank you, Mike, for that insight. I see we have so many questions in the chat. Everybody's got lots and lots of questions. Let's see. Next, we're going to take a question from Patrick K. Abbey. Patrick, thank you for submitting your question. Patrick says, how much autonomy do embassies have in exercising discretion in issuing interview dates when the bulletin is current? That's an interesting question. All right, Chris, do you want to go ahead and take this one?
In terms of discretion, their discretion is limited to current visa approvability, which is to say only those folks with current visa priority dates are allowed to have their interviews scheduled. So having said that, within if you're current on I don't know on October 15th, 2022, and your friend's current on October 20th, 2022, so you're 5 days earlier than he is, that does not mean that you're guaranteed to have your embassy appointment interview earlier than he is. So and that's where some discretion can happen within the embassies and indeed worldwide. So the U.S. Embassy in Tokyo may not have much of a backlog, and they could be processing right through until November of 2022. Some other consulate, Buenos Aires, may be backlogged, and they're still working through cases that are a couple of months old.
Okay, some good information there on embassies and current priority dates. So thank you, Chris, for that. So I see another interesting question from Firewood. Firewood says, can I use my priority date from unskilled to EB-3 skilled? Mike, any thoughts on that?
Yes, priority dates are what we refer to as recapturable. You can recapture an earlier priority date within the employment-based categories. So family doesn't transfer over to employment, but employment from one category, E4 all the way up, are transferable. And the keys for a priority date to be recaptured is, first of all, it has to be already approved. It cannot have been withdrawn prior to 180 days after approval. And it cannot have been based upon fraud or misrepresentation. So, and the type of proof you need, obviously a copy of your approval notice is the best proof. However, there are other things. We can do what's called a FOIA request with the USCIS for them to look up your records. We can sometimes use NVC records to try to establish an old priority date. But yes, generally speaking, they can be moved from one category to another. And you own the kind of rights to that. It has nothing to do with your prior employer.
All right, so some good news there for you, Farhoot. So I'm getting word from backstage that we have got an overwhelming number of callers that we're trying to get into the legal hotline, which is still open. So I think we're going to take some more callers from the legal hotline. As a reminder, this is your chance to come online and come on camera and ask your questions to the legal experts. So we have a maximum number of backstage, which I hear we are reaching because there are so many people who want to come on the legal hotline. But keep trying. You can keep clicking that link. It's in the chat, and you can ask the lawyers your questions live. So remember, cameras on, please, if you're able, and please try to keep the questions as general as possible so that everybody can benefit from the information. But this is your chance. Free information from our legal experts. So let's see. Do we have another caller who's going to come on and ask a question for our experts? Oh, looks like we had someone and we just lost them due to internet connection. So, all right, the link is in the chat. We're going to take another question from the chat, but now's your chance. You can come on, click on the link. I know we had a lot of callers. I think they were waiting for us, and that was my bad, everybody. But now that I know you're backstage, we're going to take your questions. So join the link. So I see we still have lots of questions in the chat. So Danielle, love your name, Danielle, is asking a question about Abu Dhabi. So Danielle says, based on other applicants, Abu Dhabi is a very slow in giving interviews. Do you have intel on that and what we can do to speed it up? So I see we had a couple questions about kind of transferring interviews. It's going kind of slow. What thoughts do you have on that, Chris?
Yeah, so one thing is I actually don't think Abu Dhabi is any slower than any other embassies, candidly, with the exception of Manila. Manila tends to be the best because they have the highest volume of nursing cases. In fact, some of the sub-Saharan African embassies, I think, are actually traditionally worse than Abu Dhabi. So that's the good news, Danielle. Don't think you're being singled out or your embassy is being singled out. In terms of speeding out, we've been in contact with the State Department on this issue of inconsistencies. They have just in the last maybe 15 to 30 days have promised to make nursing a priority. So I do think that everyone will see embassy appointments move faster in March and April here. So the good news, Danielle, is I do think you'll see that move faster. The other piece of good news is I don't think Abu Dhabi, this week it may be worse, or this month it may be worse, but traditionally Abu Dhabi is not really any better or worse than anywhere else. In terms of switching embassies, if you're this close, there's exceptions to everything, but I sincerely doubt moving your embassy at this point in processing makes much sense.
Okay, there we go. There you have it, Danielle. So some good insight and information from our legal attorneys. So we have another question from Edison. Edison says, are you guys offering H-1Bs and EB-3 positions AMN? So good news, Edison. We do have H-1B and EB-3 positions. You can apply on our website. It's amnhealthcare.com/international. For those who might be watching, though, and wondering, what is the difference between an H-1B and an EB-3? What does that even mean? Mike, can you give a very quick snippet on what both of those offerings would mean to a nurse?
Sure. So the EB-3 is the traditional green card process that all of the questions we've been asked so far today relate to, where you're processed while you're overseas. Generally, you then come into the U.S., you and your family, and you come in with a green card. An H-1B is a type of temporary worker visa. It's used for all types of occupations here in the U.S. Engineers use them, doctors, PTs, OTs, medtechs, etc. The general standard for an H-1B is that you, as the employee, must have at least a bachelor's degree, and the job that you're going to fulfill must be a job that requires a bachelor's degree. Traditionally, RNs have not met the second requirement. They've met the first. You personally have a BSN. The second has not been met traditionally. All 50 states in the U.S. allow an associate's degree for licensure. So you already have a bar there, not necessarily a bar, but you have the standard has been set by state licensing boards that a bachelor's degree is not necessary to get a license and work in Montana or any other state. There, however, are certain hospitals where the hospital has decided internally that their policy is they're only going to hire BSNs. Or maybe in a particular unit, a specialty unit, a NICU, ICU, ER, et cetera, where they're only going to hire BSNs positions. And if that's the case, then that hospital will that position will qualify for an H-1B. The other thing with H-1Bs is right now, because we have a lottery system for the H-1Bs, most H-1Bs in the healthcare space are only available to what we call cap-exempt employers, and those are employers that are nonprofit affiliated with a university. So not every hospital in the United States is going to even be eligible to file an H-1B for you. An advantage of an H-1B is the fact that you can get here and work fast. If the hospital qualifies and you already have your visa screen in hand, you could probably be here working in the U.S. in 8 weeks, 90 days at the most, kind of a time frame. So super fast. Some disadvantages is your family can obviously come with you. They have dependent visas on H-4s. but they cannot work. There's not a, they do not automatically get work authorization. So limited number of positions, but there are some, and faster, but has some family implications. You would still then ultimately do an EB-3 while you're in the U.S. on the H-1B. So ultimately, you would still get to go through the green card process. It would just overall take you significantly longer to get your green card, but you would be working in the U.S. while you do that. So there's the quick version.
Okay, thank you, Mike. That was a good sum up, a good quick version. If you're interested in learning more about any of these types of visas or green cards and how to come to the US, we actually have free guidebooks. So our free guidebooks, we're going to drop the link in the chat. You can find them on our website. And we have free guidebooks on all of the different ways that you can come to the US. There's some tips and tricks in there, some good information, kind of expands on what Mike just spoke about. But you can learn more and it's free. So feel free to go to our website. We'll drop the link and you can download these free guidebooks. All right, let's take more questions. So I see Luis is saying, is the process with kinetics for an H-3 visa or an H-1B visa? How different are both of these processes? So I truthfully don't know much about the H-3 visa. This is actually one of the first times I've heard about it. The H-1B visa is an option through AMN International, although it is limited, as Mike said, but that is an option for some nurses. What is the H-3 visa? Chris, is that an option for nurses?
Basically, no. Which again, there's exceptions for everything, but I would be very skeptical of using an H-3. It's a training visa. It's not really an employment-based visa. There's some educational components to it. I can tell you, as someone who's been in this space for 25 years, I'm not sure I've ever seen a nurse come in on an H-3 visa and been satisfied with that decision. So I would probably shy away from that and look first and foremost to the conventional EB-3 visa, which may be what she's asking, which is, again, the subject of the way 90-95% of nurses come in from across the United States, or the H-1B, which Mike just gave a good comprehensive outline about just a few minutes ago.
All right. Well, there we go. Some good information for you, Luis. Now you know the difference, and now you know what's a good option for you. So let's take more questions. I see there are so many questions in the chat. Everybody wants to get in their questions for our legal experts. Thank you guys for putting in your questions. And I hear we are having some technical difficulties with the legal hotline, but they are getting fixed. So if you want to jump on, you can click on that link. It should be working now, and you can ask your question directly to our expert attorneys. So let's see. We have another question from Josephine. Josephine says, what if I have a dependent who's 19 years old and he reaches 21 before getting an interview? Will he still be able to accompany you? Mike, you want to go ahead and take this one?
Yeah, so the general rule is that needs an interview and be approved prior to turning 21. However, there is something called the Child Status Protection Act that is fairly complicated and case specific. And so you're going to want to make sure you alert your account manager, your recruiter to this effect, or the lawyer if you're working directly with the lawyer. But one of the things that can happen is that the time your I-140 is pending, so for example, let's say you filed under regular processing and it took 8 months, then your child will not turn 21 on their birth date, but they will turn 21 in the eyes of the USCIS at 21 years plus 8 months. So they get that extra time. What is not protected is having an I-140 approved. That does not protect a child from aging out. Retrogression can age out individuals. You're not protected by retrogression. So if retrogression gets worse, right now it seems like if your child is 19 now, they should be fine because they're 2 years till 21 plus the processing times. But it is definitely something to alert your recruiter to. And if they are going to age out, then you have to look at what other options are available. Are they going to come as a student? There's a variety of other things you can look at, but that's the general idea.
Okay, so there you go, Josephine. There's some good information for you, potentially some protection. And at the end of the day, as we say on these shows, the best thing to do is really to consult your experts. So work with your attorney, work with your recruitment company, make sure that they understand the situation that you're concerned about and they can help advise you. So that is going to be our best advice. So as you guys can see, the sun is starting to shine on my face. The sun is rising in sunny California. So, as I said, talking to you from where I first immigrated from South Africa about 20 years ago, and very lucky and happy and privileged to be here taking your immigration questions and helping other nurses reach their American dreams. So happy to be here with you all today. I see we have lots of questions on the chat. We are doing our monthly immigration Q&A, and we have launched our legal hotline. So I hear we have some callers who were able to get through. Let's bring in one of those callers who has a live question to ask our attorneys. All right. Good morning or good evening, wherever you may be in the world, Martha.
Hi.
Can you hear us? Martha, can you hear
Hello.
us?
Hi. Yes, my name is
Hello.
Martha. And
Where are you calling in from,
yes,
Martha?
Yes. Hi. I live
Where are
in
you calling in from,
Toronto.
Martha, and what's your question?
I am calling from Toronto, and my question is, tell me about the TN visa process. Is that also affected by retrogression?
Okay, that's a good question, Martha. I'm sure lots of Canadian nurses and also Mexican nurses who are watching might be interested in the same thing. Mike, you want to go ahead and take this one?
Sure. Visa is a temporary visa. It's referred to as non-immigrant intent, so it's not affected by retrogression whatsoever. To obtain a TN visa, you need a state license and you need the visa screen. The state license in some states you cannot obtain until you actually have a social security number. So you have to meet the standard of eligible to obtain the state license. So that obviously means passing NCLEX, means in most states applying for the license. So there's a variety of things you can do there, but it's done very easily from Canada. You can do it at the border driving across. You can do it at the airport, like for you there at Pearson. Simple process. It will initially be good for 3 years. It does require sponsorship by a hospital or staffing company, but very, very simple to do. You can then choose if you want to. A lot of Canadians do not, but you can choose to file for a green card after, and there's some rules you have to follow because you're on a TN, but it can certainly also lead to a EB-3. The only difference between a TN for a Canadian and a TN for a Mexican is that TNs for Canadians, they do not require a visa stamp in their passport. It can simply be done at the airport. Mexican nationals, you have to go to the embassy first and get a visa stamp, but there are no further restrictions. It's also still very simple and also very fast to do. Obviously, if you're Canadian, today's Friday, and you found a job today, and you already had a visa screen in hand and a state license, you could honestly be here by Monday and working. A Mexican national, you can get an interview in under 30 days, so it will still happen very fast.
Woohoo! So soon. Thank you so much.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Martha, for calling in and asking your questions. Some good news for anybody who may be eligible for the TN visa coming from Canada or Mexico. Could be a fast way for you to get here, and then you can do your green card while you are here potentially, if that is an option for you. So thank you, Martha, for calling in. I think we have some more callers on the legal hotline. I hear everybody's trying to get in. Good morning, Mark Pablo. How are you today? Can you hear us? Oh, we can see you, Mark Pablo. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Oh. Hi, Mark Pablo. What's your question for our immigration experts?
I just want to ask regarding, since there's a delay in the upcoming visas up year to date. So what is the possibility that the November will be moving a little bit more?
Okay, that's a good
More.
question. Thank you, Mark Pablo. That's a great question. I'm sure everybody's curious to hear the predictions of our attorneys. You kind of gave us your predictions for the rest of this fiscal year, but what are you guys hoping to see for next fiscal year? I'm going to open it up to anybody who wants to take a gander, take a guess.
Well, Chris, since you're my younger brother, I'm gonna let you go first. Mom would appreciate that.
Putting Chris on the spot. I love it.
Yeah, so we did talk a little bit about this at the beginning, but it certainly bears worth repeating. So for the EB-3, Philippine, and all other categories, and I apologize, I forget the caller's name, but we're currently at November of 2022. Not just my expectation, but if you read to the bottom of the visa bulletin, you will see that it says, well, I'll quote it here. Employment-based categories, and this is they're talking about future progressions here past April. Very little to no forward movement is expected in the coming months since the final action dates for many categories advanced for April of 2024. And so what they're saying there, if I can translate the word salad there, is they do not expect the priority dates to really move forward. Again, could it move from November to December? I guess so. The U.S. fiscal year runs until September of 2024. So that is about 6 more visa bulletins or 5 more visa bulletins that no one should expect any material progression. So if you have a priority date that's, let's say, in March of 2023, you might be getting optimistic because November of 2022 to March of 2023 is not a very big gap. And indeed, last month it moved 8 or 10 weeks or so. So you might be thinking you're close. The unfortunate reality is probably the most chance you have is in October, November, December of this year for your date to become current. In terms of any specific date into the future, and if mom and dad taught us anything, Mike, it's don't predict too far into the future. So I would say that it's probably very difficult to say anything beyond that other than no real movement until October, and then probably the same steady tight movement that we've seen this fiscal year.
Okay.
I will let mom and dad know that you quoted them, so they'll be happy today. So that's good. I will add one other thing. There's 2 charts in the visa bulletin. There's the final action date chart and the date for filing chart. And the date for filing chart is generally set when the new fiscal year starts. So October of 2023, we got our dates, and it was February 15th. February 1st, 2023 for all other categories. Generally speaking, the date for filing chart dates do not move each month. They are set with the idea being that during the course of the fiscal year, the Department of State believes they have enough visas in the backlog to get to that date for filing. The fact that they've stopped short, and we're short by about 3 months, is a little concerning because we would have liked to have seen it got to February 1st, 2023. Does that mean there's more people in the backlog? Does that mean they simply left resources that have not been able to put people through with 485s and things like that? It's a total unknown as to why it did not reach that particular point. But I 100% agree with Chris that I don't think we're going to see any movement until the October bulletin. And then hopefully we get some forward movement. I mean, this year we've had 7 bulletins and we're continuing to steadily move. The idea, the big picture, my answer, if someone says, I'm going to start my green card case today, when can I expect to get a green card, has really not changed in the last year, or at least last 9 months. I think it's going to take 18 and 24 months for you to actually get your interview and a green card. Focusing at the individual month-by-month progressions is probably not very helpful because it can be kind of misleading. Because when, like this month, it jumps forward 2.5 months, we think, oh, it's going to jump forward like that again. or if we have a month where it only moves forward a week and we think, oh, it's only going to be a week. Neither of those are really very accurate. So again, think big picture, 1.5 to 2 years is what I'm continuing to estimate for how long it will take to get a green card if you're overseas.
Okay, thank you, Chris and Mike. I think that was a really, really helpful answer. And I think some really good advice. I know I see so many comments asking about progression and predictions and all of that. And at the end of the day, you can't control that. You know, it's great news to see the forward movement, but you should really try to control what you can control. If you are in the queue, meaning you have got your priority date, you will keep moving and you will get here. It's just a matter of when. So while we are very happy to see the forward movement that we saw in the last few months, and we'll definitely keep an eye out for the next few months, at the end of the day, control what you can control. I know Mike and Chris say that on every show, control what you can control. Take your English, take your NCLEX, get your visa screen. Whatever those kinds of things that you can do, get more experience, you know, make yourself more marketable to an employer for when you come to the US. All of those things you can control. Those are things that you should be focusing on. So thank you, Chris and Mike. Great advice. So I see our legal hotline has got so many callers calling in. I know we have tons of questions in the chat, and I wish that we could get to everything, but I see the clock is running. So we are going to get to our legal hotline caller first. So let's bring our caller on, our next person. All right. Hello, Alicia. Can you hear us?
Hi, Danielle.
Hi, Alicia. Where are you calling from?
Philippines.
Ah, okay, the Philippines. Well, welcome to the legal hotline. We are excited to help you with your question. What's your question for our expert attorneys?
I've been waiting for my interview date in UAE, but until now, they are not giving any interview dates. What's the best thing to do? Should we move our interview date here in the Philippines? Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, Alicia. I think this is actually a similar question to one that we had a little earlier in the show. Was it Chris or Mike who took the question? Who wants to take this one?
Chris took it.
All right, Chris, you're up. What was your advice?
So, I mean, the one thing I didn't hear from Alicia was when she says they're not scheduling interviews. Has it been a week or has it been 6 months? Because I think that would change things.
It's more now.
I'm sorry, Alicia?
It's more than a year now.
Is your priority date current?
Yes. It's been in 2019, since 2019.
Okay, what does your attorney say?
I mean, they are expediting it.
Who's they?
I mean, I'm from Connecticut, so that's why they are requesting the.
Okay. Well, Alicia, let me suggest this to you. This is something you probably want to email Kinetics offline about, because certainly if you've been, from what I'm hearing, if you've been current for a year, and certainly if your priority date's 2019 and you're a Philippine national, that tracks. You should probably have an interview by now. So it's a very specific question to you. So I'm not sure this is the right forum, but if you want to reach out to Kinetics, I'm sure they can get in touch with the attorney to see and get your precise answer as to what the issue is. You know, candidly, I don't know, 1% of the cases do get thrown off track. The U.S. government is quite a bureaucracy, but without knowing the specifics of your case, and again, I'm not sure this is the right forum. It's hard to answer, but you should be getting a specific answer as to what's going on with your case. I don't know. That would be so out of line for it to be that long that it's just very difficult for me to speculate why that might be the case.
Okay, thank you. So I should reach with the attorney and
I would reach out to both the attorney and to your Kinetics contact to see what specifically it is about your case that's being held up.
Okay. Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome, Alicia. Have a great weekend.
You too.
All right. Thank you, Alicia, for your question. You know, I think It comes up a lot, specific questions to your specific cases. And the general advice is going to be work with your attorney, work with your recruitment company to try to figure out what's happening with your situation. Because there might be certain, ins and outs or specifics to your case, and they'll be able to best advise you. But thank you, Alicia, for the question. Thank you for coming online. I know I'm watching the clock. We don't have too much time left, but I know we still have more callers into our legal hotline. So as a reminder, please put your camera on if you can. We'd love to see your smiling face. And please keep your question as general as possible so that other listeners and viewers can also benefit from the information. So let's bring on our next legal hotline caller. I see we have Jazz. Jazz, can you hear us?
Hi, Daniel.
Hi, Jazz. Where are you calling from?
I am from the Philippines.
Oh, okay, great. Our second Filipino of the day. Well, we are so happy to have you on, Jazz. What is your question for our immigration expert?
Yeah, actually, it's about the visa fee bill. So I just want to ask if our priority date is not current. So does it mean that we won't be able to receive what do you call this, the NVC notice or the welcome email, and then we won't be able to proceed on the submission of civil documents until DQ?
Okay, that's a good question. Mike, are you able to take this one?
Sure. So the date for filing chart in theory tells the Department of State whether they will process your case and issue fee bills. So if you have a recent filing and you filed, let's say, the fall of 2023, you are not going to get a fee bill issued, or at least that's in theory, you should not get a fee bill issued. They will not issue fee bills until you become current on the date for filing chart. That's when they're supposed to start issuing fee bills. The idea is that there's no advantage to having you already paid and having your documents put together if you're not going to have an interview for 8 to 12 months, because then everything's going to have to be redone. Because it's going to be stale, it's going to be old. You might be at a different job, you might be at a different address. Just a variety of things are going to be old. So we do not see the automatic, I got approved, I 60 days later got a fee bill. That's not the way it's working right now. And as long as retrogression is in place, we will not see that particular pattern. And then once you do get a fee bill, companies have different policies as to when you pay that fee bill. You pay that fee bill. Some companies are only wanting you to pay the fee bill after you've already got your visa screen, or at least have passed the English test. Other companies will go ahead and pay the fee bill. Some individuals, we had a gentleman on the call earlier that married. If you get a fee bill and you know you're getting married shortly, you're better off making it simpler. If you don't pay your fee bills until after you get married, it's easier to add your spouse at that particular stage. So there are some circumstances that will change how the fee bills are paid, but generally speaking, it's not going to be as quick as it was in the past. But again, that will not change your overall timing of when you get the fee bill. That will not matter. Does that help?
All right. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you for calling in, Jazz. Hopefully you got some good information there. So thank you to everybody that called into our legal hotline. That was a lot of fun trying out something new. We actually are going to say goodbye to our expert attorneys because we have another new segment to bring on. So we're excited about that. But I just want to say thank you so much to Chris and Mike for being on with us this morning, answering our legal hotline questions, answering all our immigration questions. They are on with us every month, giving their time to help nurses around the world. So thank you to Chris and Mike for giving your time. I appreciate it. I love working with you both and love seeing your friendly faces every month. So thanks for being on.
Thanks,
so
Danielle.
stay tuned. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Danielle. And I think the caller edition worked out really nicely. Good idea.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, we love it. You guys are going to get lots of questions. Everybody's going to keep you guys on your toes.
Excellent.
Well, have a great weekend,
All
everyone.
right. Thanks, guys. So we are going to have one last new segment that we're going to be introducing into all of our Onwards and Upwards shows. We are going to be bringing out Holly for our clinical corner. So this is going to be a time for Holly to introduce something that's a hot topic in the clinical section, something that international nurses are really curious about. If you have any topics that you want to see in future shows, please put them in the comments. We would love to make sure that we are giving you information that is helpful and useful for you. So hi, Holly. How you doing today?
I'm great, Danielle. Good to see you. I love listening to the calls earlier, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to have this time and share some great tips with the nurses or any healthcare professional for that matter.
Of course. Well, we are so lucky and happy to have Holly on. Holly, I'm going to turn it over to you, but I'd also love you to give just a quick background on yourself because you have lots of experience and you are definitely the right person to be giving some clinical tips. So let's turn it over to Holly for Clinical Corner.
Sounds great. So my name is Holly Musselwhite. I am a nurse, and I've been a nurse for 23 years. So about 22 of those 23 years, I have worked with nurses from across the globe, now in different roles. So I've been a preceptor, a clinical educator, a director of clinical services. The list kind of goes on, and NCLEX instructor. So I've done a lot with nurses over the years that are trying to either prepare or integrate into the healthcare system here. And I've also worked with other healthcare professionals such as physical and occupational therapists, speech therapists, and even some med techs. So during my time in my career, I've learned that there are some common challenges that most nurses will experience. Our goal is to bring our expertise, and it won't be just me on the clinical corner. So future clinical corners are going to feature some of our other clinical team and contributors to make sure that we really give our nurses great advice and tips that will really help them have a more positive experience and maybe a few less bumps in the road as they go through that clinical transition to practice here in the United States. So my tip for today is called speaking up. And it may, when you hear the term speaking up, it may look a little bit like, well, what does that mean for me versus what does that mean when I'm in the States? Is it any different? So I do want to give you some context. But to define speaking up, it means that you actually verbally acknowledge that there may be a concern, a challenge, an issue that you want to discuss with someone else. And rather than staying shut or keeping quiet and just letting things happen, you actually step into the situation and use your voice, often as an advocate, either for the patient and the family or for yourself or for another team member. So if you think about your career as a healthcare professional, you probably can think of times when you've spoken up. The thing is, when you get here and you start that transition, it's a new team, it's a new facility, it's a new culture. There's so many new things that you may be hesitant to speak up, even though you found your voice in previous similar situations in your previous practice. So it's a skill that you want to use, you want to harness to protect the safety of, might be your license, might be the patient, might even be, like I said, another colleague that you want to kind of help get through a situation. So speaking up is something that even a shy person is expected to do. And that is where things can get really challenging, as you say, oh, well, I'm shy. I don't normally speak up. I don't feel like I should be getting in the middle of this problem. I don't want to be a problem. I don't want to make waves. And those are things that actually can cause your team around you and even your patients to perceive that maybe you're not as strong clinically as you really are. So what I tell my nurses that I work with on a regular basis and any other professional is you need to think like you don't have to change who you are, but you do have to find it within yourself to use that professional voice to advocate for the other party or for yourself. Now, here's an example for the speaking up. Let's say that you've just started work here in the States. It's your first job, and you have a preceptor who is just incredible. They know so much, and they're telling you so much, and they're sharing so much, but their style isn't an approach that you're used to, and you're finding it isn't maybe the best match for your learning needs. And every day to every other day, you see your manager, you see your educator, and they ask you, how are you? How are you doing? Is everything going okay? And that's not a casual ask. For them, it's an intentional ask to find out what's happening with you and whether you have any concerns. So that is your opportunity to speak up. At that time, if you say something along the lines of, I'm fine, or things are going well, they take that at face value. They assume that means you have no questions, you have no concerns, and you have no challenges that you're trying to navigate. And yet every day you're thinking about coming to work and you're going to be with this preceptor, and it's just not the best match. So do you stay shut? As I've heard some people say, you don't want to make waves. Imagine that causes the team to perceive you as not advocating for yourself. Turn it around and say, yes, I actually would like to know if maybe I could work with a different preceptor. And don't worry about whether somebody sees you as making waves, because what it's actually doing is showing them you have a voice and you're going to use it to make sure that you get the most out of that orientation experience so that you can progress through things as timely as possible. So that's it for the Clinical Corner, this week's tip on speaking up.
All right. Well, thank you, Holly. A very important topic. I know a lot of nurses who are watching probably feel a little anxious about this, but it's an important topic, and Holly gave some great tips. So please heed her advice. She's been doing this for many years. She knows what she's talking about. And we wish you all the very best of luck. Hopefully this Clinical Corner tip was helpful for you today, and we would love to hear what you would like to see in the future. So please put in the chat what Holly should be talking about in the future for the next Clinical Corners. Thank you, Holly, for being on with us.
Thank you. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. So to wrap up the show, we had such an exciting day today, trying out some new stuff. We had our job watch where we highlighted where some of our current employers are going to be hiring in the next few months. And as a reminder, while we highlighted those 4 states, we're still hiring all over the country. Those were just the 4 that we decided to highlight for this show. So if you want to see some new states highlighted for next show, please put that in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. We had our legal hotline, which was a lot of fun. Our callers were able to call in, ask their questions live on camera to our legal experts, get some good advice, some good tips. And then we wrapped it up with our Clinical Corner, some good clinical tips for all of our nurses who are watching around the world. And these are segments that we're going to hopefully implement in each new show. So tell us what you think. Tell us what you want to see. We want to make these sessions as useful for you as possible. So to wrap it up, let's bring up our schedule for the next months and see what upcoming shows we have. So next month for our monthly update, we have our immigration Q&A on April 19th. Again, we'll have that legal hotline open for you. You can come on and ask your questions. I know we had lots of questions in the chat, so you'll be able to come on and make sure your question is answered. On May 3rd, we have our Nurses Month Q&A. That's going to be exciting. We have some fun stuff planned there. And on May 14th, we have our Nurses Month game show. We're going to be doing something a little bit fun. I love doing the game shows. We haven't done one of those in a while, so that'll be a lot of fun. We also have our LaFora talk show on April 16th. We are going to be talking about embracing your new life in the USA. So a really good and important topic for all of our nurses who are watching around the world to consider. We also have our AMN Academy, which are upcoming shows every Monday at 5 a.m. Pacific. with our partners, iPass 9.09er and Aspire RN. These are free classes, everybody, free classes to help you with the English, to help you with the NCLEX. So make sure you take advantage of all of the information that we have for you online. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you to our callers who called into the legal hotline. I had so much fun getting to hear from everybody around the world, help you answer your immigration questions. That's really what we're here for at AMN International. We want to help you. We want to help you reach your American dream. If you were inspired today, you can apply on our website, amnhealthcare.com/international, and our recruiters are on hand, ready and waiting to help you with both direct hire and staffing positions. Once again, we're the only company that has both direct hire and staffing. So I'm your host, Danielle Friedman. Great to see everybody. Onwards and upwards until our next show. Bye, everybody.